Hello and welcome to the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. My guest today is Simon Calver, the business builder turned tech funder. As the boss of Love Film, he brought mail-order movies to the nation before he took the helm of the much-loved high street chain Mothercare. Now, as a partner at BGF Ventures, he finds himself on a new mission. This time, he's on the hunt for technology firms of the future, the British game changers. Simon, very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
You've gone from entrepreneur to funder. You've gone from being a founder to being a venture capitalist. Was that always the plan?
Well, maybe I'll find out one day what I'm good at, right? So that's part of. No, I don't think you can ever, sort of plan that far ahead. I've just seen exciting opportunities, evolved into things, learned as I've gone along. I mean, that's a huge part of the process of any career that you have, and then made some calls based on what I thought would be good for me and where I could really add value.
So today you've got BGF Ventures as the day job. I mean, let's hear the pitch. Let's see if the viewers are buying.
Well, technology is such an exciting sector, right, and growing hugely. But in the UK, we still need to invest in earlier stage in some of those companies to help them become truly global greats. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to identify those companies. Maybe we're investing 10 to 15 companies a year, give them the funding they need to help them really accelerate growth. And that's an exciting, journey to go on.
So to narrow down, you're looking for tech firms, you're looking for investable firms, and you've got the money to help them.
That's right. Yeah, we're looking to invest between 40 and 50 million a year in the companies, across the whole of the UK. Right, and UK only, and trying to find those companies that maybe have a global perspective, trying to do something different, some innovation, some different tech, and most importantly, some great leadership, because it all comes down to people.
Do you see this about finding the next big thing? I mean, is this about the hunt for Britain's Facebook or Google, or is it more modest than that?
Well, I think you have to start off with modest ambitions, because if you set yourself up the goal of creating a global top 10 company, right, you may end up slightly disappointed, but you certainly have to believe that a company has the management, the capability to be able to become a significant player globally.
And is there a trick to finding that? I mean, what makes you think you're onto a winner, or is it just a gamble?
Well, no, it's not a gamble. You hope that you use some of the experiences that you play to bear to say, what makes a difference? Is the product right? Are the management team, working well? Are they focused on doing it? One of the things that I think is inevitable is that you have to adapt and change. Right? I haven't, unfortunately, myself personally, ever had a business plan that I've just gone out, bang, nailed, and been able to hit it. You need to change. And having that resilience as a management team, I think, is part of how you create a global company.
Do you find they overpromise the people you're investing
in? Well, I mean,
or not?
we all do in terms of what we're looking to do. But there's a difference between being ambitious and being driven and wanting to achieve some global stuff, and actually having a pipe dream, sort of hope casting, as I call it, rather than forecasting. And I think that, just by drilling down, understanding what's driving it, speaking to customers, right? One of the most important things you can do, speak to people who are using the product and understand how they feel about it.
Right. So when you look at London's tech scene, how good is it?
I think it's phenomenal. I think we are absolutely one of the top global cities, right, in terms of the technology that's coming through. And even in the last 5 years, the rate of new startups here in London is fantastic. That's increasing. The quality of entrepreneurs and founders that are coming into the business, they're no longer going into, banking and accountancy and other services that are careers. They want to change things, and they want to make change happen.
But there's a certain, if you believe the polls, there's a certain queasiness, if you will, about London tech firms in terms of their ability to get what they want, in terms of talented people, the whole nature of an uncertain future. I mean, if you were buying stocks today, would you buy London?
I think you absolutely would, right? Now you would have some questions, and you do your proper analysis to understand it. Talent is critical, right? There are 2 million Indian software engineers in Silicon Valley that are supporting Silicon Valley. We need those people to come to London, right? It's not just about a Brexit question versus a global question. It's about how can we become a magnet in London for the right talent and the technology engineering talent that we require.
And do you think those 2 million software developers, do you think they get the sense that London is open for business, that they might as readily find a future here as they could do on the West Coast or in Asia?
Maybe our PR hasn't been as good. right? To be honest, I think that everybody and historically have been migrating to the Valley and talking about what's going on in the in the tech scene on the West Coast. I think the truth is, over the last 4 or 5 years in London in particular, we have built an ecosystem where we've got successful entrepreneurs supporting the next generation, passing the baton, attracting new talent. That new talent. Good talent attracts good talent, and continuing that momentum is important.
So I'm sure Theresa May is glued to the set right now, watching
so.
our thoughts. If you were to give her a checklist of the things we need to do to get that right, what's top of the list?
Well, I think talent is top of the list, right? Not only is it about building a generation of talent within the UK that's coming through, but it's making it attractive. Don't be fearful of great talent coming into this country and helping us grow great businesses, because we'll create even more jobs. We know that the small and medium enterprises part of the economy is the thing that fuels a huge amount of growth. So that's really important. The second thing is, let's continue to build the relationships between our academic institutions and technology, and help and find and support those parts of the economy that we're good at. We're great at creative industry, right? We're good at software developing. We're great at, sort of the gaming side of things, but also artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. All those things are things that we in the UK, and in particular London, should be proud of what we can create.
Now, a lot of what you're funding, I mean, you're fueling this whole disruptive culture that's going to change the way that we live and sort of work in the future. And I mean, just a quick quote, something you've said yourself: if any company thinks it's old world, then the chances are it will be dead in 5 years. How many businesses are we talking about here in terms of that just aren't fit for purpose anymore?
Too many. Right. I think the truth is, I think there's a couple of things in UK companies that is probably underinvested in, and that is, one is the analytical and data capability to get that insight that creates real competitive advantage. And I think any company that thinks they can get away without doing that, I think is wrong. But take a simple example. So I have now 2 children from tomorrow, 2 children that will be going in primary school. 65% of kids in primary school at the moment are going to do a job that hasn't even been invented yet.
Right, but so the state's got to get them ready. But you've also said here that too many companies, too many sectors, too fat, too fragmented, and offering a poor customer experience. I mean, are we really that out of shape as a body business?
No, I think we have some amazing companies in this country, and in London in particular. But we've got to raise the game across the whole piece. If we just get a few % productivity or effectiveness improvement in a lot of companies, we will really move the needle. And that is about understanding how technology can drive a better customer experience, can improve efficiency, can make things work quicker in a company. And I think that's quite exciting. I have a theory, right, which is the atomic unit of a company is shrinking. Right?
So just break that down for us. What is it?
So what I mean is, whereas before, if you were a large company that maybe had 10 or 20,000 employees, right, you had knowledge advantage, you potentially had capital advantage, you had infrastructure and location advantage. Technology is breaking that down such that the small companies can compete.
So that makes the barriers to entry easier?
Even lower. The cost to get a minimum technical product out there, minimum viable product as we call it out there, has come down from about $5 million to about $50,000 in the space of about 10 years.
But presumably we'll be a more productive nation as part of that in terms of the road of technology. I mean,
yes, so it's not just about innovation, it's also about using technology to become more productive, and then that will help us.
Does that mean less jobs? Does that mean people are...
I think ultimately, so for example, in the next 10 years, people are forecasting that about 25 million jobs will go, for the same reason that I talked about, the primary school example. However, there's about 15 million new jobs being created. That's a huge gap.
So will outstrip it?
Yes, so the loss will outstrip the gain unless we begin to scale up and get people that will focus on what the new technology jobs will be.
Does it ever worry you that a sort of instrument like the BGF, like the Business Growth Fund, which came out of Project Merlin and the banking crisis, which was there to do good things, might actually finish up costing people their jobs?
Well, no, I think the question is we are now investing in accelerating growth in those companies, right? So the companies that we're putting money into is to support growth, is to support scale, and to create jobs. And to date, in the venture side, all the companies that we've invested in have increased their headcount, have taken on more people, and are driving jobs. So in parallel to improving, the competitiveness of their company, they're creating jobs at the same time.
So we're going to see more jobs in London through tech. not less. What kind of jobs do you think we will be seeing? What's new? What can people get excited about?
So I think people can get very excited about data, right? And I know on the face of it, people would tend to fall asleep thinking about data. So if you're good at maths,
you're all right.
No, but if you're good at maths, if you're good at analysing data, how we collect data, how we use data, how we prototype the new way that phones, laptops, tablets are all going to work is going to be important, but also how we do our day-to-day jobs. I think technology is a great enabler, but ultimately the interview wouldn't be the same if you and I were two robots talking to each other. Human interaction is still going to be a very
important. So we don't need to
part.
worry that much about AI, about augmented reality, these things. The robots aren't necessarily coming for all of our jobs.
Not for all of our jobs. They will come for some jobs, but then conversely, the jobs that create them, the jobs that manage them, the jobs that support those robots and things like that are also going to be created in parallel.
And should a city like London be particularly excited about that?
I think we should, because we can attract great talent, and diverse talent that we have in London, and we have the capital to help support and grow those companies, and we should be using that as a real advantage.
We've been talking about London's tech revolution and how it's brought us to today, Simon. After the break, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about London's future. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. My guest today is the entrepreneur turned investor, Simon Calver. Now, before the break, Simon, we spoke a little bit about London's success story today, but I want to do my bit now and take you back in time, a regular Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future, because the year is 2011. It's a royal wedding. Adele is topping the charts, and there's this new firm that's just been created, Love Film. I mean, you're actually underway, you're growing a business, and you changed the way that we watch movies. Tell us what it was like to actually be part of a business that so fundamentally caught the imagination of people at that time.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I look back, with great fondness of the journey that we went through, and every year felt different. I mean, we had distribution centre fires that literally put the company out of business. We had developing new technology around streaming in parallel to postal services. We had acquisitions. We acquired Amazon's business, and they ultimately then, clearly acquired us. So every year felt differently, but the common themes around that were the way that the team operated, the team were able to adapt to any new initiative, and the way that our customers just embraced, not only the service that we had, but the ethos and the sort of, the sort of slightly naughty, disruptive sort of culture that we had.
And what's it like working inside? I mean, 2011. I mean, it's a real feeling of startup growth. I mean, what's the actual team culture like? Well,
so we were growing at that stage nearly 100% year on year, right? So doubling the business every year. And so you have to focus on recruitment, right? Because you're building, whether it be customer services or whether it be engineers, whatever, you have to continue to try and attract the best possible talent. So you have to work on what are the values that are really important for everybody around the table. And I was a huge believer in not going outside and asking people what our values should be. We just sat around the table and said, what's important to us? And living those in your behaviors. Values to me are great, but it's how you behave day in, day out. Are you treating people with respect? Are you hiring the best possible talent? Are you doing what's needed? And if you can be consistent and give people a vision of where you want to take them and how you want to disrupt, I mean, it was amazing that we were able to challenge some great companies during that time.
And I mean, we talked about 2011, it was the year of Adele, and 2017, it's still, some might argue, thankfully, it's the year of Adele, but no more Love Film. How does that feel that your baby is no more closed down by your sort of purchaser?
But I know that, all the DNA around how streaming happens, around how Amazon Instant Video works and Prime Instant Video works, is all of what we created at Love Film. I mean, Amazon is a phenomenal company and a great brand, and they're actually able to take, a lot of the good things.
So Love Film lives on, does it?
It lives on,
Amazon culture?
Yeah, but not in the way, shape or form that, that we all knew it at the time. But then technology has moved on. We started as DVDs through the post. Now people don't watch them anymore. They stream. They watch instant video and things online.
I mean, you had a year working with Amazon in terms of actually getting a sense of that culture. Tell us what it's like. What's the difference between working in a British tech firm and then when you're working for one of the really true global giants?
The thing that was most impressive was the speed of decision making. Right? What they do is they and still to this day they focus down on what are the essential things they need to make decisions against. They get people in a room, they don't have pre-reads and everything else, and they discuss the issue and they make a decision. There was a time when I was in a meeting with Jeff Bezos where we were looking for more investment for digital content that would have cost, not too dissimilar amount of money that they would have paid for the business in the first place. And in an hour and a half meeting, it's right, go make it happen, just execute and get on with it.
And just very quickly, Jeff Bezos is a man that's changed all of our lives. What's he like as a human being?
I mean, he's amazing.
He's not an AI robot, is he?
No, he is an incredibly high energy person. One thing we forget is he's maniacally focused on the customer experience. When we were working on putting Love Film on the Kindle device, when that came out, the out-of-the-box experience had to be, I push a button and can watch a film. It had to be simple, easy to use, one that would make people just go, wow, that's incredible.
So you moved on to Mothercare. You
Yes.
described that as a short, sharp shock. Who was that for, them or for you?
It was me. I had a young son at the time and I was walking around Mothercare stores. Right?
Good products.
Yeah, and I was using the product and I was saying to myself, what a fantastic opportunity, what a great brand. And I saw that they were in the process of doing a turnaround, and so put my hat in the ring to lead that early part of the turnaround change, which we did.
But a completely different culture, right? I mean,
Completely
a traditional
different culture.
retailer.
Well, 51-year-old retailer that had done things a certain way for a long period of time, and the opportunity was, how can you build online sales in parallel to it? 80% of mums going into a store were looking at alternative products on their mobile phone while they were in store.
Are they the sort of business that needs to watch out from the sort of technology changes you've been talking about?
Well, they need to embrace it and they need to do it. And a great example is just collecting the customer data. When I arrived, we had about 1 or 2% of our customers' data. And yet I know that if I'm a mum and I've got a 6-year-old child, I know in 6 months it's roughly going to be a year old, right? That means that my needs will change and everything else. So you need to collect that customer information. And we were able to grow the online business quite dramatically through how we went around customer data collection and how we used that with customer relationship management, CRM tools to begin to sell new products and services.
So here we are, 2017. We're looking at this Brexit world, soon to be a post-Brexit world. I mean, how bullish are you about it?
I think it's going to have challenges. Right? Let's be really, really honest.
Is it a good thing? I mean, is there any good out of it, do you think?
Well, no, I think one thing that you will find of all founders and entrepreneurs of early stage businesses is they will adapt to the environment, right? If you were to sit a founder down and said, what's the most important issue to you today? They would talk about hiring talent, cash flow, customer experience.
So this is not on their list.
It's not high on their radar, but anything that can impact those important things that will help drive the business is going to be a concern.
Does it change the investment climate for you? Does it make changes for you in terms of the way you will approach things?
Well, I think one of the things that happened is that the devaluation that took place immediately after Brexit, I think, has made UK companies, make UK companies more attractive, and we've seen a bit of that go on. But I think ultimately what we have to do, in the UK is we have to stand on our own 2 feet and be able to get the right talent, have the right capital infrastructure to invest and create those businesses and support companies in the best way that we can. So the basics of what we need to do hasn't changed. We just need to ensure that we don't forget that.
Your colleague Harry Briggs made the point that he felt that Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, would be a much better choice as Prime Minister for the technology community, especially with his views on immigration. Is that a view you share?
Well, no, the key thing for me, I mean, it's not, my role is not to decide who's doing what in government. My role is to think about...
But would it be better for tech, do you think?
Pardon? No, I think the most important thing for tech is that we get the right talent in and we have the right capital to invest and we continue to inspire entrepreneurs and founders to set up the right companies. That's the most important thing for tech, right? No matter who's in the chair and whatever they're doing, that's critical.
But you've spoken about an uncertain future, potentially leaner times. I was reading something you wrote at the end of last year. Do you still think that's the case? Do you think we've got to get ready for a much more austere business climate, or do you think we're going to steer but sort of navigate out of it?
No, I think it will be more austere. Right? And I think that is primarily going to be driven by uncertainty. So extending Brexit timetables and doing that won't help if it just creates more uncertainty. And if you are putting capital investment, if you're creating new products, if you're hiring people, if you're uncertain about what the implications of that is going to be, then you ultimately, especially in the large corporations, will delay your decision making. And that will be bad for the economy.
And when you look at a city like London, what does that practically mean for us, for the millions of people that live here?
I think what that means is that means we need to create an environment of certainty. we certainly, the diversity and the amount, the number of, EU nationals that we have living in London, adding a huge amount to our economy. We've just got to let them know they're here to stay and don't worry about things and get on with it, right? And I think that's one part. The other part is to ensure that we have the supply of capital, not only to early stage startup businesses, but through businesses as they scale and grow.
But you say a climate of certainty, but I mean, is that even possible anymore? I mean, is this just not the era of uncertainty in almost everything we do?
Right. Often when I speak to companies, there's a real strategic advantage in being agile, right, and being able to adapt. And I think that that's a really important thing for us as we think about a nation as much as we think about a corporation. So what's going to change? I mean, if you only look at recent events that are constantly going on in the news that help redefining some of our perspectives, I think we just need to ensure that we're focused on what are the critical things that make a difference. So when I speak to businesses, I say, what are the 3 or 4 KPIs, key performance indicators, that you need to track as a CEO, as a founder, to make a difference?
Do you think that something like the Business Growth Fund and obviously the venture program, I mean, you were born out of uncertain times. Do you think you need more money to do the job, or have you got it covered?
No, I think there will be more. I'm hoping there will be more opportunities coming through. We currently can only invest in 10 to 15 new companies, right? We'll be looking to, increase that and follow on. Yeah, but one of the things that the advantage of having a slightly constrained capital environment, right, where you just don't have oodles and oodles of money to invest, is that you focus on deploying that and investing with the very, very best. And I think that's really important to do that. Otherwise, there may be some companies out there that aren't going to survive. I mean, early stage investing is much more of a, gains loss environment rather than a normal environment.
And for you, we're almost out of time, but for you, when you think about your future, what's next? What are the big milestones? What's a big milestone still left to do?
I would love for us at BGF Ventures to invest, £500 million plus in UK tech and help drive that forward. That would be fantastic.
Right, so we could have gone on. I think we've got so much more to cover. I think, brilliant to have you on the show, and thank you so much for spending the time telling us a little bit more about the tech climate and the investment climate here in London.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for, and a big thank you to my guest this week, Simon Calver of BGF Ventures. But the good news is we'll be back. So I do hope you can join me next time to meet more of the people making it in London today, right here on The Capital Conversation.